and they're going to use any excuse they can come up with.
But how can they say, if the sun is obviously the source of most heat on this planet, there's some that comes out of the tectonic plates, the thermal, from the volcanic activity in the core of the Earth, up into the mantle and the crust. But, I mean, it's just so asinine to say polar bears can't swim and the sun isn't heating us. I mean, and it's like when I had Rothschild on, I said, the big head environmental land grabber, and I said, but Jupiter and Saturn's moons are melting. The ice caps of Mars are melting. This was 3 years ago. Now they're getting bigger. And he just said, well, that's because Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars are closer to the sun than the Earth. And I said, no, it's Mercury and then Venus and then Earth. He said, no, they're closer. And he just laughed because he knows he thinks the general audience is like, my audience is like the general public. He thought if he just acted confident and said that Saturn was the closest to the sun, people believe it.
Well, like I said, these guys grew up in the height of the Cold War where they could lie to the public with impunity and there was no blogosphere or alternative radio to challenge them.
Mike, let me talk to you during the break. We've got the Camp FEMA folks coming up. Mike Rivero, WhatWillHappen.com. I'm Alex Jones of InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. The new film is pre-sale right now. It ships out on or before the 21st.
Have you ever wanted to generate your own supply?
We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Coming up for the balance of the hour into the next hour, at the next segment, we're going to have the makers of Camp FEMA on and talk about a host of issues, get into the flu, get into big developments with the Hardin, Montana American police force situation. I haven't gotten to that yet, biggest developments yet in that case. But I wanted to hold Mike over to take some calls. Jasper in Mass, you're on the air. Go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Alex, you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, I think I've got breaking news that you'd be really interested in. We're looking on YouTube this morning, and we found these clips that talk about NASA sending a bomb to the moon. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, that's public. That's Reuters, AP.
Right.
Since the Indian probe a few months ago found water all over the entire contiguous surface, even above the surface, in the dust, below the surface in large amounts, NASA's quickest thing they can do is to slam, they're calling it a bomb in the headlines, slam a satellite into it to then have spectrometers from a distance scan the water content because they want to find out the concentrations below ground. And so, yes, it's very interesting. That's in my stack.
Could this be the false flag? Because remember, well, first of all, I wanted to point out that the date is essentially 199, which is pretty close to 911, and it's illegal to be doing any kind of weaponization stuff in space. I thought there was a ban on that, and then additionally, could this be the false flag event that they have always been talking about, that Von Braun was talking about, saying that the alien threat would come after the terrorist threat? And,
listen, I appreciate your call, sir. I don't get into speculation here. We know it's a live virus they pump into the nasal cavity with the new flu vaccine and that it can mutate and spread the disease. We're covering it. We know a convicted felon fraud moved in and tried to take over a detention facility where they were talking about keeping terror suspects. We know that $23.7 trillion has been stolen from the people of this country in the last year. We know all this is happening. It's the wrong show, and I don't bash people that get off into different things. I even knew about the water on the moon through Buzz Aldrin, through Charlie Sheen, before it was even in the news, and I didn't even mention that because it would just sound weird. Oh, Buzz Aldrin says they're going to announce the next month they found water on it. I told my wife about it, a few people around the office. I got some text messages from Charlie about it. But the point is that I just don't get off into all that. Mike Rivero.
Well, I mean, this is not weaponization. This is a repeat of what they did with the Comet Impactor mission, and it's becoming a standardized technique. You throw a large object into the celestial body you're investigating, and as you said correctly, you use a spectroscope on the debris to see what came out of the center. And this is a precursor to a possible permanent lunar base at the moon's south pole, where if there is a source of water there underneath the regolith, it's going to make the logistics of supporting such a base that much easier. It's not a false flag. It's not weaponization. It's just the next step in establishing a permanent lunar colony.
Absolutely. False flag. I mean, having a satellite, little satellite, not that big of a satellite, slam in as a meteor gun into the surface of the moon so they can register how much water vapor comes up. I mean, that's not a false flag. But I'm not trying to make enemies with listeners disagreeing with you. I just, I got so much stuff here I can prove that's off the charts insane, and nobody seems to care. The White House science czar has written more than 10 textbooks calling for the extermination of the majority of the public and forced drugging of the water supply to sterilize us. But I can get plenty of people to call in and tell me about reptoids, and I'm not bashing the people that think everybody's a reptoid. The point is just that isn't me. I'm not into that. I'm just into what I can prove. Let's go ahead and talk to Joe in Maryland. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Hey, I used to work for a wholesale store, and it's called Costco. Talking about the North American Union, and the meat boxes, on the meat labels and the meat wrapper labels, they said product of U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And sometimes they'll say Canada and Mexico, and then sometimes they'll say product of North America.